We're going to talk with Sporting Kansas City President Jake Reid. Jake, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Pleasure's all mine. Really appreciate you taking the time. Jake, let's talk about that first weekend. Your club getting the result they wanted, and it looks like you guys are all set it for this weekend and another big task at hand. Talk about it.
Yeah, fantastic result. Obviously, Seattle's never an easy place to go play, and historically we've not had the most success there. So to get 3 points on opening weekend, couldn't have asked for a better result, and we're excited to open up at Children's University Park this weekend.
And you're playing against the Vancouver Whitecaps, who come off a stinging home opening loss to the Montreal Impact. You know that they're going to be ready. You know that they're going to be a much different squad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, in MLS there's no easy outs, right? I think every game is difficult regardless of the opponent's record at any point in the year, but we expect a hard game. We had a couple against them last year that were very difficult, and we were fortunate to come out on top, but yeah, for sure. It'll be a hard-fought match, but I think we'll be excited. First game at home, the guys will be ready to go.
Jake, I've talked to a lot of players leading up to the opening weekend, and as I mentioned to Kyle and to Will and many others, the word that sticks out to my head this year, specifically in 2016, is parity. I believe parity has come to MLS like it came to the NFL many, many years ago. And I think this is good in many ways. I think that this is important for North American soccer, that you see the parity and not, the elite always hanging around at the top for years and years. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you're right on. I think we agree. I think it's good for the sport. I think it's great for the league. I think the league is in a healthy place right now, probably better than it's ever been. And I think you could have said that probably the last couple of years. And I think that's a great sign that they keep growing. I think we feel great about where we're at, having 5 straight MLS playoff appearances. The job Peter and his staff have done. I think we're in a great spot, and I think the league is as well. So I agree. Parity is good. I think it's great for the fans. It's great for the club to keep everyone working hard at all times, but I think we feel as good as we can going into 2016.
Jake, I've had many of your players on, coaching staff on our show in the last 5 years, and one thing that always sticks out with me about Kansas City and Sporting Kansas City is that you never hear of any situation on or off the field that's blown up to a big, turmoil situation. With other clubs, you might hear of things that are taking place on the field, off the field, in the locker room, you name it. But there's always calmness in Kansas City. And I think Peter Vermes has done a great job of professionalism that he's shown. And I don't think he gets the respect, honestly, that he deserves, not only in North America, but I think this guy could be ready for the next jump in Europe someday.
Yeah, I mean, I think Peter deserves a lot of credit, and I think that's his style, and credit to him. I think he is generally an under-the-radar type of guy, but I think the culture he's created here over a long term since he's been here has been fantastic, and I don't know that I'd say he's underappreciated. I think within the soccer community he's very much appreciated, and I think what he's done, if you're involved in the sport, does not go unnoticed. But yeah, you might be right from typical a fan's viewpoint looking in. He's probably not the guy that's pounding his chest and talking about how great we've done, but that's just his style, and I think he's more of a let the actions speak for him louder than the words.
Jake, NCAA to me has become the pipeline for great talent coming out of there for MLS clubs. You're no exception. Your club, many other clubs have really piped into that pipeline and gotten a lot of players that they can use instantly as starters. We saw with TFC here on the weekend, the first game with Tsubasa Endo coming out of Maryland and playing a real good game, and many others that are on your squad. I mean, Graham Zusi comes from Maryland and many others as well. How important is the NCAA and them developing in these players for MLS?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. I think the entire structure of the Super Draft is incredibly important. The youth system is as well. But yeah, it's no surprise. You look at our roster. You look at Graham Zusi. You look at Matt Beasler. You look at Roger. A lot of these guys that we've gotten from the draft, and that's kind of how we have built the core of our roster over the last 5 years. So I think the NCAA has done a great job of getting these guys prepared. I think the youth system and the academy will continue to be important, but the NCAA is not going away. It's going to be a huge piece moving forward, just as it has been, and we certainly have our eyes on that.
Jake, the Chinese Super League has made a lot of noise in the last couple of months. Obafemi Martins, we know, has gone over there. Many other players from Europe. Many coaches have decided to go there. But listening to Andrea Pirlo and listening to Jovinko and listening to a couple other MLS stars talk about MLS, their words to many out there that would listen are, if MLS wants to play with the big leagues and play with the big boys like China, that now is a real threat for MLS, they need to open up their wallets. They need to be a little bit more looser and go after some of the big names and coaches. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think if you look at the league growth over the last, really decade, I think it's been a slow and steady approach. I think if you look at maybe expansion teams that have come in, it's been clear that the strategy has been, very much on the front end. Let's evaluate. Let's make sure it's a right fit. Let's make sure it matches kind of everything the league is looking for. And I give Don Garber, the commissioner, a ton of credit for that. I really do believe that, we have learned our lessons from, the history of the league and where we were 20 years ago now and some of the missteps that we had. So I don't know that I'd say spending and then kind of going after it is the solution. I'm certainly not saying that that's not an option for some clubs, but you look at us. We've historically not been a team that's had to go and spend a ton of money. I think we've built from within. We've tried to cultivate a culture here at Sporting that, let's get them in, let's grow them, and let's make sure that they fit what we look for. So, but vice versa, you look at a lot of clubs like LA that take a different approach. So ultimately, that's a club-by-club decision. I think the league is on a great trajectory, and I feel really good about where we're at.
I think Don Garber's done a tremendous job in expansion. I mean, we can criticize him in other areas up here in Canada, but I think for expansion, he's done tremendous. Atlanta, Minnesota, another team in LA. I think it's fantastic what he's done. A lot of people have been asking me, and I've been asking myself, why isn't St. Louis in the mix for an expansion team? I mean, I don't know if you recall, Jake, but I remember watching Canada take on the USA in World Cup qualifiers way back about 20 years ago, and St. Louis was a hotbed, and I still believe it is. And I also believe that there's other markets out there. Give me your thoughts on expansion. Do you believe it needs to continue?
I think it does, and I think they're taking the right approach, but I don't think they're rushing into it. On your St. Louis topic, I mean, listen, selfishly here in Kansas City for us, it'd be fantastic. We would love it. It's a natural rival with Kansas City sports and St. Louis sports, and you kind of plug in the dynamic of the Rams just leaving there. I think anytime there's a void in any major city when a sports franchise leaves, I think if you could plug in another option, in this case an MLS franchise, it would be fantastic. I think the fans would really rally behind it. The city would rally behind it. So, you're talking about a guy who's very biased because it's a close proximity. It would be a very natural rivalry, but I think the league's on the right track. They just announced, to continue from 24 to 28 without a timeline, which I think is important. We're not putting pressure on ourselves as a league to rush into anything and to just pick a few teams just to get them in. So I feel great. I think expansion is important. I think they've evaluated it, as they've kind of hit different levels. We kind of went from the 24 to 28 this year, and I think that was very well thought through. That wasn't a decision that was made on a whim, and that was about a year and a half in the making. So I feel good. I think expansion is important. I think we're on the right track.
Couple quick things, and then we'll let you go. We really appreciate your time. Let's talk about the Swoop Park Rangers entering USL. I was fortunate enough to do a lot of work with TFC2 last summer, and the competition I really was shocked to see, whether it was Rochester, Pittsburgh Riverhounds, on and on. I really enjoyed the young talent, Jake, that was on a lot of these squads. And I think this is key for the success of your organization and MLS to have those youngsters that need more seasoning to come through USL squad. Talk about having Swoop Park Rangers part of this family.
Yeah, we're really excited for him. I think this is probably something we would have loved to do, get in last year, but we're trying to get our ducks in a row. I think USL is fantastic. One, as a league, I think they've done a great job, and the competitiveness of the league is tremendous. I think they are establishing themselves as a true number two to MLS. And for us, there was a big gap between the academy structure and the UA teams, and you've got some guys that were probably ready to go, but not quite ready for the first team play of Sporting Kansas City in the MLS. And in our case, that meant either throwing them in the fire and hoping they catch on, or sending them to college. So I think this provides a bridge for us at the youth level. We expect them to be very competitive. We're not viewing this as a just typical throw them in and let's develop them. We clearly want to win and want to be successful, but I think it's also a tremendous feeder system for the first team. And it's not a surprise that you've seen a lot of MLS clubs buy and get into the USL. So I think it's a great league. I think they're on the right track, and we're extremely excited for them this year.
As I let you go, let's talk about Kansas City. To me, it's a special market. I mean, people talk about New York, Boston, Toronto, LA, on and on about being special sports markets. I got to tell you, Kansas City to me is a gem of a sports town. We saw here in Toronto with the Blue Jays, we found out how wonderful the rivalry was between those two in the Royals winning World Series. the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's a close-knit community by the sounds of it and by the looks of it. And to me, I think this is the key to success in this city. What works so well, whether it's with your club, the Chiefs, the Royals, that really is put Kansas City on the map as being a winner in many sense?
Yeah, it's a great city. I'm not from here, for the record, for those who don't know. So I've been here for 6 years, but I can tell you it is a incredibly loyal community. They're unbelievably passionate about their sports franchises, and I think you've seen that in a lot of the examples you just listed. But when we came in and we rebranded and opened the stadium, I think our expectations that we would get to a point where we were hopeful to sell out within 3 years. But I think the city was unbelievably in their support, and they rallied. And credit to Peter and his guys. Clearly, we had a great product to showcase during that time. But we're going into the home opener this Saturday, which will be our 71st sellout consecutively. So it's just a community that I think is very proud. Is probably the one word I would use to describe them. That they're proud of where they're from, what their teams represent, and what that means to them. So it's a that they've adopted me into the family. I feel like this is home for me now, even though I'm not from here. So I can't say enough about the fan base. I'd put them up against anyone in the country in terms of their passion and commitment.
Jake, you're working for a special franchise in a special city, and I got to tell you, we've had tremendous support and success working with great guys there. Kurt Austin now that's moved on with the Swoop Park Rangers, John Kaplan. So you've got a great staff. I thank you so much for making time. Good luck against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Good luck in 2016. And again, we really appreciate your time.